dealing with. More drugs take over control of this new immigration. Get imagination, you see we didn't change it. Face to the pavement instead of the plow. Still looking for the green to feed a hungry crowd. Look at them now, cooking cops out here, cooking them now. Mowing them down on the spot, been booking them now, hooking them down. Stop. Take a look at new anti-blackness. Latina slaves to the master. Violence on the Latino God is a problem. Not trying to solve it, so we can't be bothered. Nobody getting bothered by certain problems. Like all these people getting locked up for some martyrs. Never asked to be killed for a bigger cause. Just wanting to be free from the ship on the wars. All right, I got one more. If you had a problem, you could start it up. Took them to the hood and then you shot them up. Call it up. Homies in Iraq up in Afghanistan, cracked in, but we never looked at them to make a man's back then. Trying to go to Pakistan and then we back again. Them Africans and never see us call it quickly on their back again. Back again, to rap again, to remix all that's happening. Then we grown, started up. I know you heard the track again. Tombstones never move phones, trying to make a change, but stay in our backyard and the tomb gone. Now they're moving neoliberalism, this guy was patriotism, and forcing every other ism is. It's the problem, we never willing to stop them. Now we remixing the problem on beats, and now we problem kids. Problem is, you never see what the problem is, cause they cover it up. Abolish their accomplices, never see the problem till we grown, start it up, put it on the beat, and now it's new school. Part of us, excuse me, pardon us, we coming through your city, then we take your resolution, then we take it, let's go bring it back. Look at the flick of the wrist, kill with the flick of a wrist. Presidential power, kill with the flick of a wrist. Drone strikes everywhere, bombs over Baghdad. After commentary, we let them get away with mass murder. COINTELPRO in my hood and they murder Bobby Shmurda. How you think they found out he was selling rock? Now we serve them. Now they Tupac kids on the block and they get away with murder. Blue boys everywhere, Crip cops, crooked gang members with their license to kill us, and they everywhere, killing us, they everywhere, serving and protecting, but their murders happen everywhere. Wait, hold on. Trying to remember something. Get out. Wait. Never lack on a killing. No, I never been a place where this demigod don't bring cocaine. No, look in my hood like a sugar tin candy. Now they got the politic in handy. Prophecy, all of this political apostasy. Properly take away your faith in hypocrisy. Take away your faith in a bigger cause. Hit them with a bigger mouth and a bigger voice. Cooking with the grease now. Preach out. All the black lords in the streets now. Reach out, seek out. Never gotta seek out what's appealing to your feelings, cause you gotta believe in the impossible. Making possible demands on the state. Put the head of the state on the state. Get the steak knife. Cause it's time to cut deep. Cut the head off for the snake. It'll perish to its feet. Alright. I got like 2 minutes.
Open for crossfire.
Just in the hallway.
Yeah.
Hey, awesome. So I have some questions. I want to start with the end. So I thought I heard some things in there about making impossible demands on the state. Is that what you guys are advocating?
That's not what we're advocating.
I guess I'm curious what you think an impossible demand on the state might be. Like, what's an example of that?
I don't think we said anything about that. So
I mean, that's not the advocacy. That was just like a part of the bar. You feel me? That was like supposed to resonate with the audience.
Okay.
Is there a part that was an advocacy or though? Because I mean, it
Yeah,
all sounds.
the totality of it was.
Yeah, it all resonates, right?
The totality of it was indeed an advocacy and a position.
Okay, and so the position is
Vote
As
negative.
okay, vote negative. All right, well, we know that. So then I guess the question becomes why?
To endorse what was performed in the 1NC. The 1NC is advocacy, so therefore.
Okay, got it. But why is that 1NC advocacy different from the 1AC advocacy, or rather, why can't it coexist?
I feel like we said some pretty key things in the 1NC, i.e., like the idea of like neoliberalism being
I heard
the move that.
Okay,
Create all of these-
the 1NC advocacy was definitely not the United States should reduce its strike capabilities associated with.
Okay, so no matter what, so you said 1NC just now. Is that negative like throughout all the negative speeches, or just this particular speech? You won't advocate the plan, or all of them?
I mean, we never advocated for the affirmative,
So
like
far.
that the U.S. should remove its air strikes. Or
I don't realize that.
I think
But like,
We're not gonna be able to answer that.
but like the neoliberalism argument, because you wanted to talk about it, right? You pointed it out as an
I mean,
important
it was just one example of what was different than the affirmative. Like a lot of it was different than the affirmative.
the totality of it was different.
Well, but
than the
I think you
affirmative.
said that neoliberalism is patriotic, right? So right now, neoliberalism is
Neoliberalism disguises patriotism.
exactly, and so we said that too, right? We said that the way the United States approaches China policy right now is all about U.S. patriotism.
I
And that's a
don't
problem.
think the 1AC said that neoliberalism disguises patriotism and forces every other ism. So
So maybe,
I think-
so we could say it did, you could say it didn't. I guess the real question is, could it, right? So why is it impossible to do what we say with the plan? And
I don't think
Question
the 1AC
neoliberalism.
has bars, so that you can't just say that we said bars, so you should do what we did. Like that's kind of like the fungibility.
Well, not that
Right.
necessarily I'm saying I can't, but just hypothetically, if I can't rap like that, like what would be a way that we could have a clash?
I mean, you
debate
could have
about it?
said it in your tags, neoliberalism disguises
Oh, no.
patriotism.
okay,
That's like one of those questions. Like I wouldn't ask the question if I can't speak as fast as you spoke in the 1AC. How could
Because
I
you know you
debate?
can't.
Right. How do you know?
Because I debated you. I watched you do it, man.
Except for that.
Yeah. I should say you can charge me with like 2 seconds. Okay. I need to get back.
Backflip.
I know. Does someone have a proper timer I could borrow, or is there only one? I'm at the proper timer. Yeah, exactly. You get like a social media update every 5 seconds. There you go. Thank you. Everybody?
Yeah.
No intermission, human intent is making certain demands of the state for the end of funding policies based strategy movement such as demands not only working with the state to reform legitimate management process to look forward to the question which takes the state management policy question legitimate update by the state how it's supposed to be formed constitutional guarantees rights of state privilege with the island done and remove the critiques not compatible with our speech act voting affirmative when we advocate non-competitive policies necessary to clash with competitive equity. If you vote for competitive speech acts in the abstract, then there will infinitely regress. You'll never have any sort of clash with the debate. The purpose of invasion in the first place, and the 1AC was always about white supremacy. The American side of public criticizing the 1AC is an important part of the broader history of white supremacy that intersects with the other elements that critiques London 15. White settlers opposed the introduction of slavery to California. They turned important labor into the Asian South document to second analyze more than a century of xenophobia, including anti-Chinese pronounced by white politicians. Change for control via containment. The single most powerful technology employed managed change is legal exclusion. Chinese looking for any xenophobia against white Americans. These sociological frameworks about the anti-American race, racial hierarchy, inequality, built into American social struggle, settled colonial structure, and analysis reveals the underlying system, belief, practice, institutional systems undergo the link the racialization Native Americans and Chinese experience in national policy toward Chinese and helping with conservation relations so much so colonialism, conscious history, United States Native Americans help normalize the extreme balance, not what others extreme balance rationalize necessary to ensure federal security, blacks, American Chinese were subject to extreme and disproportionate violence by the characterized as ethnic cleansing, the comfortable working expenses, predominantly the possibility later ways that now incremental changes may bring revolutionary changes closer. Not all reforms induce complacency. Some whet the appetite for further conflict. Critique reform misses these possibilities and neglects the question of whether total change will it come when it comes will be what we want. Members of privileged groups should speak out for equity. Alternative worse is wise no day. It makes no sense to think that respect to political investment hypocrite also criticizing certain election members of the group should never speak, but they should passively accept their advantages, or perhaps you still leave posts do nothing passively satisfy white supremacy, the moral agency, all their attention, they'll turn will be for the White House to contribute what a bunch of racing granted for veterans and balance, people for response to all the heavy lifting art for white folks in the kids makes little sense ethically as absurd. It's not mutually exclusive, voting affirmative affirms the transformational power of opposition networks to resist capital itself and accelerates the fragmenting power of anti-hegemonic networks. Larger trajectory reform can be understood as a strategy for political victory hard. And two, the present difficulties of political strategy which they seek to develop real alternatives to global organizational competition between the two positions, and no one speaks for a network. How do you argue with the network? The movements organized with them, not how the perceived opposition, one base characteristics networks from no two best to contradict, they're always triangulated by a third, and then the infinite represent the way in which the characteristics events and only the trouble understanding groups with understanding contradiction, whether something able to work together, catching network movements function something like a public sphere, and that they can allow expression of differences in the common concepts when exchange of not in such networks of path to place contradiction operating since each and movement transforming the traditional fixed networks and post-original undertone they state to try and read division according to the ideological conflict between those inside political strong the age network movement no longer works that way. Leaders eventually will be swept up in the multitude which is capable of transforming all things centralized elements into so many more nodes. It's indefinitely expansive networks and I haven't read a card yet, so I can't type an author. And racial progress has occurred, so legal change and meaningful change is possible. Jack Pessimist in specific forms achieve lasting improvements to people's lives is only 13. White racist role in the USA appears all over affirmative space important performance and real extraction of racial compression to the US. We disagree. The US is capable of being influenced more or less inclusive policy. White racist dominance has been unchanged throughout US history. Misses the dramatic twist of racial politics since the civil rights claim to overlay inflate the statement change with civil rights and overlook the persistent inequalities. We do not. While the right was able to roll back the hands of somebody who was elected to achieve US racial coalitions have changed. Some reforms have proved irreversible. They have set powerful democratic forces in motion, desegregation, the armed forces, the Voting Rights Act, the Immigration Naturalization Act, Loving versus Virginia. US racial regime has been transformed in significant ways. Important and partial victories shift to the racial state. Further victories can take place both on the broad turn of the state and across civil side. The most obvious complicated race-based movements demand not only the inclusion of racially defined others and the democratization structure of race societies, but connection and validation by both the state and civil side. Racially defined identity events broaden and deepen democracy, even the need to develop contradictory call bodies reveal the transformative character we still want to acknowledge. The life from the catching hell and been born. The hell of racist reaction. We agree with the critique of incarceration. How is it understood beyond the deep politicization? We're considering the upsurge in incarceration and restricting increasing impact of voters of color for all. The horrors new Jim Crow represents incarceration to political issues. These are not illegal dimensions of the U.S. racial regime. There have been previous ways of reform that can be transformed. Again, resistance is not futile. Racial conflict is the fundamental positive political realities of race, provide extensive evidence people calling the United States are not so powerless of enormous increased racial equality, but anti-racist opposite continues to score victory challenges. White race fatigue both within state and civil society movements may experience setbacks, but racial subjectivity within the psyche and the body of politics abides. Public scrutiny forced the rollback of the ESB in favor of better policies and reaching alternative has no toolkit for us to use to evaluate military policy. It's only 14. For ASB to properly review, one would have to ask what the overall strategic position of the United States is. ASB that rejected greatly so that the authorities would throw the way deal with Chinese British and China argument over equal when the United States was far extreme China's part of the president self-right and Soviet private responding to deal with China's one kind of rights from that. Let's start out with China policy thoughts and calls for property defense culture and protecting race brighter. They stopped at the idea of overall strategy arguing the president no straight direct white shows not Kentucky way rarely influencing unlike which Judge ASB contributed to the inattention lack of working foreign policy strategy. The United States slimes for rally China by default. There are strong forces that agitate developing strategies considerable measure by the laws like parts of the contribute taking into account trade strategy measuring that's why that administration calling close not possible. This is the case for the U.S. administration self-supporting democratic regimes overseas the network of authorities, and we control uniqueness. The 1AC evidence indicates there's no discussion of ASB right now. It's largely left of the public discourse. The plan is a unique offensive reason to vote for it. Discouraging because it places demand on the states to be ignored in public dialogue by the military right now. Also, the alternative is voting issue. We are able to defend a floating pick throughout the debate, which destroys fairness and room clash for all the reasons that are impacted on the first permutation thing that I was talking about. And reducing social change to increase cultural representation of minorities that faces structural violence is better defend implementation and hold institutional account for the ideas is 3 and 13. The narrative emphasizes black agency support, stresses its important recognition of alternative exposure to black kids to overcome the psychological effects of inequality. This has political problems and psychological terms that just appears in matter of recognition of these processes like self-esteem, friction, I think it's a cathartic trope. This notion of black psychological damage towards wealth, reduction, slave nature, personal dynamics, substitute cultural recognition, policy, rights, inflation, political action, theory, self-esteem, engineering, displays, politics, changing social structure, reproducing quality, concern, or feelings, identity, reverence, focus on things, using on different from institution, libertarian right, their disdain for government institutional, political action, common reflections, disparage as inauthentic, and anti-blackness is not ontological antagonism. It's Hudson 13. Exclusion and inclusion is nowhere engraved in ontological standard, but is politically, and there are never terminally settled modes of it is nowhere decided in advance. Certain ontological things having to believe equal distance, so have divided into white and black because they signifies colonials of divisions, the charges and red, and ultimate fixing whiteness may be deeply sentiment, but from it does not follow the void of black being functions, the ultimate substance of which all possible forms of sociality rest, which get lost is the specificity of colonialism, ontological differentiating, not identities immediately inscribed in the lived experience. Whiteness are sustained by contingent practices, which can always be undone. Anti-colonial, anti-white modes of struggle are not just psychic, but involve the reactivation of colonial objectivity, symbols producing radical actions over self-something tolerated sense of the places under recognized categories, systems, no hard object. Small and policy focuses keeping back racism, anti-blackness is not ontological. This is Booming 13. Anti-black racist creation of explicit policy choices is possible. Dismantle misuse in public policy. Racism was created by policy, will likely ultimately be destroyed by policies. Or nothing national about the black-white divide. So find American history. Why Americans have contact with black African law, translated slave without emerging anti-black racism, particularly church by particular people make blacks into stigma by enslaving African indigenous language, by having a chance to move forward to colonial language, the process of ultimately make white supremacy the ideology of America. The proposition, so the position of slave generates stigma, then justify continuing slavery. Blacks are lowly from escape of slave slavery wasn't built to reflect vision, but was built in tandem with it. Further entice white supremacy attitude. Both black people for only cause their force of residing on the slopes on the extended Islam deny homeless black and look out to the efforts in other words creating privileges to marginalized groups engaging such a section on home getting married and blame them for the average harm society for great stigmas using a lot of force particular kinds of behavior. And their alternative is fatalist and ferocious for racism, no chance of solvency, apathy, self-fulfilling is talent anyone. To sustain a struggle, there must be a sense for and what against struggle in our society, racial domination, reason, collectively struggle, and satisfy religious, collectively humanity, racial realism. Does it help to believe Black America faces racial realism and finally finds a problem, fear, false reputation, idealism, believes the structure of racism, but challenge racial realism does nothing to address this problem. It fails to address the concrete condition of racism, but they're leaning closer to pure realism, happens to solve factors of false, but also rescues from the untamable expectation by removing expectations. He tempts us to live without a future, without dreams, all as a matter of faith and fatalism that racism would is transformed by its own characteristics, policy by its own terms and attitude that we should reflect. And optimism and solidarity are only hope their strategy of negativity except the foundational premises of racism the starting point for politics in 1996. Black Americans internalized the racist terms as being meaningful bonds of white supremacy. Always thought that we never trust between superior white races and inferior black people internalized and sudden numbers and take place and become complicit. Of course, white people become over rhetorical racist, such racism not challenge such things so that's why people remain ignorant. White people call black folks because of themselves to struggle because of pervasive political politics and nothing will ever change how many names continue to hold the symbol of the history of racism in society. See how much it has changed. But it's no logical sense. Clearly, we not got far enough. Must collectively renew our commitment to democratic version of racial justice, blood community solidarity, trying to profound commitment to a shared vision and. Performance itself is not an effective political strategy. Normative guidelines for justice must enable inter-subject dialogues necessary to ensure performance can be effectively actuated. None of this requires a starting commitment to research cultural communities. This is kind of understood in 2006. Performing conception itself and political work, political to how critics can interpret amongst and not achieve automatically. There is no guarantee that natural representation will serve radical transformation rather than condemn or absolute term to foster rigorous public debate. Deliberate process must augment the political importance of performative, communicate aspects, and clarifies the condition, possibility, cultivation, specific practice, and self-reflect question, openness to our different civil recognition, respect the attainment of enabling a subject perhaps media that has not normalization, promoting classification, action, rational argumentation does not translate into procedures that restrict the or subject relations of alternative beginnings in which the might be embedded. And finally, the their dogmatism refers to failures to defining standards like is reduced incapacity, which creates violence and university active fuse understand contingency merit at 12. It is not to respect kind of evolution working magic ability to straight down my desire to black lights fears name is the worst of the public civility kind of symbol of Morris and Clem blacks is passing your low black and body subject of doubt and kind of also like doesn't produce tell not to really the black stops so that's what it's hard to make sound like the low contingency the foreclosure defines power chase the violence system racial methods applies fundamental reconcilability.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, what about the negative was insufficient to solve for the harms of the 1AC?
I mean, a number of things. First of all, a lot of the harms of the 1AC are derived from the adoption of the plan, hypothetically.
So, how does the hypothetical adoption of the plan resolve the harms of the 1AC?
It depends which harms you're talking about specifically, but the 1AC outlines the fact that the current ASB policy is part and parcel with the history of xenophobia that America has in its foreign policy.
Right.
Specifically,
But,
that action.
Did you indict hip hop's ability to create cultural change that moves towards resolving those issues?
No more so than I feel you've indicted debate's ability to create cultural change that moves toward those issues.
Do you deny that hip hop is debate or that we're debating?
No, I meant the way that I presented stuff.
So that we're hip hop and debate and you're not hip hop, so we win, right?
Well, I don't think that it's a contest to be more things.
No, but we're all the things that matter.
Well, I think that's
Debate
a really
and hip-hop.
polarizing thing as well.
What about the negative is not debate? You said debate is key, we're debating.
About how specific policy discussions are important in the context of ASB.
So how are we not a policy discussion when I'm talking about moving them to Pakistan and then we back again, and Africans never see us color quits, we on it back again? How is that not a discussion of policy?
I don't think that that's a very specific policy discussion. No,
That's not a policy discussion on how we move from place to place and redeploy military after we withdraw.
I think that that is an example of a discussion of some things that occur on a geopolitical scale, but I don't think that it rises to the level of the Speech Act of the 1AC.
So then
policy change, which is important because
so then
ignoring
why was my performance not enough? Policy discussion.
I mean, I think it was fine. I think we should embrace both and vote F.
What's the permutation text?
Do both, vote F.
How do we do both? Are you gonna rap
I told you that I can't any more than I think you could read that all too.
So how you gonna do
So
both?
let's just call it a draw on that front, all right? Like
So again, we can do what you do. You can't do what we do. Why don't we win?
Do what I did.
All you did was.
I don't think you could finish that speech.
The challenge.
What was that?
I think we both have speaking styles that neither of our that we both can't adopt of the other. I don't think that means one person should win over the other. I think that would be a pretty weird way to judge debates if it's just like, well, I can do this really.
Wait,
cool
just at
performance,
the
so I
end of the
win.
last cross-examination,
Yeah.
you acknowledged that I could speak just as fastly as you can and do all of that shit
I know that's
because
why I
you've
spec-
seen
that's
me
why I
do it.
specified
Now
it.
you're
My point is just like it shouldn't be a contest about like who was more entertaining. It should be about the merits of the specific advocacies in the debate. And yeah, of course that rap was awesome. I can't do anything as entertaining in that, but that doesn't mean that my voice and my words don't matter.
So
yeah.
So the things that we were discussing about how neoliberalism, capitalism is the new middle passage, those things aren't important.
No, I think we debated with that stuff. But if you're thinking about how like, well, I can't rap, you're rap plus policy, and we're just policy, so you win. That's what I was kind of addressing.
Mhm.
All right. All right.
So
That's all of them?
Yeah.
This isn't like a Jeeves disease thing, right?
No, we're gonna. It's sales.
Huh? Yeah. Oh my god, it's like one of my all-time favorite stories. You're a relapse, right? I remember when you like.
How much time do I have?
8607.
Oh my god, that's so much prep time. I thought I had like 3 minutes. I was all rushing.
3 minutes, you will.
Oh yeah.
You told me about it. I don't remember what it is.
You didn't go for that.
No, they actually had an inherent barrier. There's like something.
Yeah, too.
No, that structural barrier. There's like a law, like a Buy America law prevented it or something. They really met. Tomorrow. Yeah. The couch is.
Okay, I'm ready. Oh, I never got a chance to post the link.
Well, we'll just have to wait.
Actually.
No, I got Mike's in the back.
Oh, I'll do this then.
I'm serious. You want to hurry?
I'm seriously, it's awesome. Like, how many of those do you have?
A whole bunch.
Really? Like, how many of them can you do? Seriously? Like debate related.
What's not debate related?
You have them all memorized. That's just impressive.
Dude, I swear.
I like can't remember famous quotes. Just like cut that line. That is something.
I ain't got no cards. Bad bitch is the type I like.
Dude, you used to read so many cards.
I know, that's why I feel bad if I feel naked up here. I'll probably be done in 4 minutes.
So you're saying you don't have a rap ready either?
I mean, I have a few. I got some bars.
You went home.
Yeah. I'm going my phone.
Everybody good? Definitely should have taken that opportunity for a second.
Oh, yeah, he should have warned you.
I collected this up as a 5 or 6 now. I have no idea.
What is this? That's so accurate.
I mean, I could find carbs in this amount of time.
You feel free to still prep during this. Man, I thought we were having fun in here, but it sounds like the party's next door, right? I apologize for the We did the tune without you.
Okay. That's how I approach where they are.
Group it.
Group the block. So I'm gonna go with an overview and then line by line.
Yeah, straight down.
Yeah.
Pretty standard, really. He has it.
I probably need this right.
Oh, you want your ab?
Unless you need it, I mean, it's okay.
That isn't your plan.
I think it's totally flipped on its head.
Oh, I need some run that timer. I'm sorry. Okay.
You want this one?
Yeah. Thank you.
You have to push the buttons that will light
Lights
up.
up, it doesn't. It's on.
What do you think we do? There's no reason behind it.
Okay.
We're good.
Xenophobia is a product of an anti-black world that is predicated on black death. Each affirmation is each affirmation in this debate or an affirmation in this debate will be an increase in civil society that will result in black death. That's a linear dissent. That is a reason to vote negative. The framework for evaluation in this debate is to vote for the team that best performatively and methodologically can reduce anti-blackness and or xenophobia. Will win that we are a better option because they are performative and methodological increase in xenophobia. We are critique of the entirety of the 1AC. Their research and methodology is bad for a couple of reasons. A subpoint, the research method is flawed because it only relies on academics and a language of law and debate that is really predicated on traditional knowledge, which is why they try to exclude us out of this debate and exclude our forms of knowledge and performance from the 1AC and say that it doesn't do anything, it's not politically effective, not even understanding it. It's not because there's anything wrong with our performance, but it's wrong with their own cognitive understanding because of their own research methods, which undermines their ability to actually cooperate with the people in China because they are not willing to actually understand anything that they don't already understand, which means you can't have a better relationship with China. The sub point is that the performance is bad because it's incomprehensible in the first first level, and second is detached and objective representation of China means that they think they can understand it and research it, and they just have a policy discussion about it, which in and of itself is a bad approach from the get-go, which is why you should reject them within this debate. The reason to vote negative is they, for a few reasons. A subpoint, they increase whiteness and the xenophobia because they deploy exclusionary practices within this debate round. They decrease accessibility through their own performances and their research methods, which undermines their ability to create effective policy. The B subpoint is that the negative alternative in this debate is better. It's a better performative method and it can access all of the internal links of their affirmative, which they can't deny. They've already conceded that their plan doesn't happen, which means that this is not a question of war or whether or not we can reduce war, because they don't reduce war or do anything. They only claim to be able to create pedagogy by being able to discuss this policy, but the entire way in which they discuss this policy is bad. They don't even understand their plan. They can't even describe to you the specificity of their plan, yet they're saying policy debates about it are absolutely important and it has to happen on a specific level. We can't have a specific debate with them because they don't even know what they're doing. They're telling us what they described it in the last debate as, and it's not even one that they research. It's a fucking Northwestern affirmative, line by line. Permutation. First, that the permutation is illegitimate because it's a co-optation of our speech act in this debate, which is an act of cultural appropriation. They are the exact example of ego exalia, and it's an example of performative enslavement within this debate because it assumes that we can have a disembodied performance that they can just take from us and attach to themselves, which is an example of how their performance and their method in this debate is bad. The second is that you can't do both in this instance because the one NC is a critique of the entirety of their affirmative and the way in which it's constructed from the beginning, from the way in which it's researched, and to the way it's spoken within this debate round. You just can't combine it and you just can't combine it within this debate. The second argument, they said the one AC was always about white supremacy. That's funny because they never said white supremacy, and that's fundamentally irrelevant because it's not just about white supremacy, it's also about anti-blackness. Our argument is that anti-blackness creates the humanism that is the fundamental problem that results in exclusions like the Chinese and other racism without Northeast Asia, which means that our argument is that you have to fundamentally undo humanism and an anti-black world in order to be able to solve for xenophobia. And it's not just about white supremacy. Their belief that you can just criticize white people means that they don't understand how it works. This is why the one NC performance of introducing anti-blackness and racism from a black perspective is necessary and important and necessary to be able to solve for the one AC impact in the better form of engagement. Next argument, they say reforms are good, but for whom? They don't work for black people. They have not resulted in freedom for black people. They fundamentally misunderstand freedom itself. It's not just the ability to do things like vote. That doesn't matter in a world in which you're constantly incarcerated and policed and denied those voting rights. There are more people incarcerated now than were ever enslaved, which proves that the law is working against black people. Things like affirmative action and all of the laws in which they cited the legal changes have only been a way to secure more white gains and not actually result in black liberation, or else we wouldn't be here. And the one NC performance and spinning about the black predicament wouldn't make as much sense as it does, which is why they don't understand it and why their entire praxis is fucked up. They say that the one NC and the one AC is not mutually exclusive. They are fundamentally at their core. They're mutually exclusive from the performative side, as in how it is that you go about engaging in debate, to the methodological side, how it is that you construct an argument, to the substantive side, which is how it is that you find solutions. We don't believe that the law will create the solutions unless you fundamentally change how the law operates and get rid of the anti-blackness, which means that you would have to end it altogether, which is not something that the 1AC does. They don't go far enough. They invest in the law and they invest within a pedagogy that has always produced anti-blackness and always produced xenophobia. They don't have a mechanism for being able to resolve xenophobia. They just have a plan that reduces something that they see as an embodiment of that. That doesn't get to the core of the problem. And then they read all this evidence about being able to solve for racism and how there's been racial advantages. They don't do shit for the Chinese, and they certainly don't do anything for black people, which is why I don't know why they're even reading this evidence about racial progress. Next piece of evidence you can group it about how the ASB is and how you need to have specific policies about ASB. The first argument is that they don't meet this interpretation. They don't even meet their own argument because they don't have a specific analysis about their plan. They don't understand the plan that's explained above. Second argument is that the plan is not specific, and that's a voting issue because it's not even topical. They don't have it in the plan, which means it's not topical. You can vote negative on because topicality is a prima facie burden, because the plan actually does more than just affect United States policy. It does it for all forces in that region. And given their own interpretation about our relationship with China, the plan actually results in more militarization and actually the elimination of Chinese capabilities within the region, not what the plan plan actually thinks it does. And that's the type of specific analysis that ought to be applied to the plan, which is a term and a reason to vote against them. The one AC cross-sex clarification should not be allowed in this debate because they call for specific analysis. That they can change it now is an example of why their research method is bad and why they came into the debate from the wrong perspective from the first instance. And they're saying that that's what's necessary to create the change that they say is going to result in a decrease in xenophobia. This is all false and should not be trusted. And their lack of specific analysis is damning because you have to understand the way our fucking government works. The government is xenophobic and anti-Chinese, not because of these fucking weapons. There's a whole bunch of other problems, the Chinese Exclusion Act and fundamental racism at the core of our goddamn government that they don't deal with. They just say that we can solve this with embodiment in a political discussion. But political discussions in this country is Donald Trump saying, fuck the Chinese for currency exchange and for other reasons. And that's what this debate will result in, not in a decrease in xenophobia, which is why we have to address things like anti-blackness and the racism at the core of our government and how law and policy work and change the language of it, which is what the 1NC does in our engagement with hip hop. Now, the next argument they make is about how you have to, the alternative is a floating pick. It's not a floating pick. We don't claim to advocate any part of the affirmative. We claim to be a fundamental indictment. We put the 1NC on the 1AC and said, this is case, baby. There's no alternative. It's just us. Well, there is an alternative, but it includes no part of the act. And that was a conversation that we had in the cross-examination. Next argument, they say that you have to hold institutions accountable. They don't hold institutions accountable. They get rid of an embodiment of xenophobia and they claim to be able to solve for things like racism. That's ridiculous and should be rejected. They say that anti-blackness is not a political ontology. They don't know shit about anti-blackness, first of all. Secondly, is that it is a political ontology because it does structure the way in which everything else works in the sense that it creates what anti-blackness is what creates the humanism necessary to be able to define the Chinese in a way that allows for us to exclude them from the political project in the same way that black people are excluded from the humanist project. They say that policy focuses key to solve anti-blackness. They don't have any policy focuses to result address anti-blackness. I don't know why this is in the debate at all. There are embodiment of xenophobia that they don't even solve, so it's irrelevant. And we're not fatalistic. We offer hip hop as a way out and as a revolutionary alternative to the affirmative that engages with the law and changes the way in which we understand the law and engage with others, including the Chinese. They say optimism is key. We're fucking optimistic. We do hip hop, and they're the ones who are pessimistic about hip hop to be liberatory for black people, which is our own strategy that we've offered in this debate and said that it can be good and it's something that should be affirmed. And they're just like, no, we don't understand it and we can't do it, ergo it must not be good. No. And you can't then permute it, right? Oh, and the rest, Jason will answer.
Okay. So you agree then that enforcing a topic in no way like reifies norms of whiteness in the community?
What?
I mean, you extended a topicality argument in the midst of this whole anti-blackness thing. So like you agree then that having a static topic that you have to abide by in no way cements, hegemony against minorities in the community, right?
You have to be topical.
I know, but you're going for that argument.
You have to be topical.
So enforcing topicality is not racist, is what you're saying.
You have to be topical.
Yeah, so by saying that, you're not enforcing a racial norm.
I don't think it's racist for me to say that you have to be topical.
Okay, but if I were to say you had to be topical, that would be, or?
We're not asking this today.
Okay, but you would just seem to really be specific about me, and so it's like,
No, we're talking about, no.
I mean, are there different topicality burdens for different teams, or?
You're asking this debate. If you're not topical, you lose.
Okay,
Moreover,
but why is the enforcement of that constraint not inconsistent with everything else you said?
I don't know what you're saying.
Like you're attempting to enforce a traditional rule-based constraint on policy debate in the midst of saying that we should have, hip hop as a method of social change.
Yeah.
How are those things consistent with each other?
How is that inconsistent? We're here rapping and fucking debating.
Okay. You said that you multiple times you say that the app does not have a mechanism for resolving xenophobia. Do you?
Hip hop.
Hip hop solves xenophobia.
Yeah, it's a method of engagement and
How does that
cultural exchange and
How does that work?
It's a method of cultural exchange and engagement. It has already transformed the world. And
okay, hip hop's been around for a while though, and you still have xenophobia. So like, when's the turning point? When do people stop being racist?
we've had political conversations about China and xenophobia as well.
Yeah.
What is your point?
My point is, I'm asking you the question of how hip hop resolves xenophobia. We can
We do more hip hop. We need more hip hop. We need to integrate it into the law. We need to shut down people who say that it shouldn't be integrated into the law.
And how does that
the
solve
280.
xenophobia and racism?
because it's part of that is understanding how to fucking engage people. We're saying you have to learn to engage people better before you can solve things like xenophobia. Hip hop is one of those methods of engagement that gets there. The 1AC,
Okay, you just
nothing
all you just
about
said
that.
was hip hop has to happen first, but why? How
I didn't
does
say it
this-
has to happen first. I said it's a means of doing that, and we do.
How is it a means?
What do you mean? How is
Like,
it? a means?
how does it accomplish that goal? What does hip hop do that effectuates this goal that you said it will?
It's a method of communication.
I know it's a method. How does it achieve that goal?
I mean, it does.
Okay. You ready?
For what?
Are you done? You maybe give your message.
Oh, whatever.
So yeah, it's gonna be this hip hop stuff. Everybody ready? There's no impact to hip hop, which means that we have to win a risk that we resolve some external impacts. Entity we a political hip hop causes legal conscience that changes the very way in which we view what is possible within the political realm. We are a prerequisite to that since 12. Over dependence on legal victories to implement racial healing has left a considerable void in reconciling post-civil rights for racial progress within the United States law in order to the diffusion of black liberation struggles and embrace the colorblindness of normative approach and fixing U.S. social issues that allow the state to reclaim its power and reproducing political, social, and illegal anti-black agenda. While this has closed one dialogue, it has opened the space for hip-hop music to seriously critique what we can learn about the fall of the Declaration of War on Blackness. While some argue that hip-hop has lost its way, rap's real talent is its real branding, its ability to affect legal consciousness and teach law to a generation of youth most affected by U.S. war on drugs and crime. Hip-hop's voice always will be a source of social critique. One of the most prolific artistic mediums of critiquing America's war on drugs, crime, terror paradigm. Now you can cut the card there. Now, the unpredictability of hip-hop allows it to break the norms of coloniality and re-signifying practices. This is an external impact to the act, reduction of military presence cannot solve for. This is season 15. Hip-hop extends to past the design to coloniality. Its power lies in the unpredictability. Through the remix, we are able to signify the past meaning and informing present provide a frame of the future to inform. Being communicated through mixing is a complex web of signifying, coding, reclaiming histories, and remembering those who came before. We reimagine the ways in which sound can be redistributed, create new meaning. We resonate decolonial ways of being, knowing across waveforms. We manipulate the code technology created by coloniality by the process of resistance to use technology and shape sonic space as a form of resistance and resurgence. Now, hip hop is a future practice for black people to move through these spaces and escape surveillance. This is an independent reason to prefer our performance over the act because the affirmative would allow us to be surveilled by oppositional policies. Now, this is concrete too. Oppositional policy, black music performance critical scholars need to move beyond the idea of ideology and the textuality as mode of communicative practice, which provides a model for all other forms of cognitive exchange and social interaction. Oppressed peoples everywhere must watch their backs, cover the track, suck up their feelings, and veil their meanings. A state of emergency under which many people demand that we pay attention to the messages that are coded and encrypted in indirect, nonverbal, and extra-linguistic modes of communication, where subversive meanings and utopian units get sheltered from surveillance. The form of slave person still acknowledge the deeply felt insights of revelatory power that came through the embodied experience of listening to communal singing. Now, you can cut the card there. Now, the affirmative distracts us from the embodied lived experiences of black and brown bodies who exist within the status quo. So the affirmative would cause the same anti-blackness that they're trying to resolve for. Now, relationships and resistance that are not grounded in experience create an epistemic violence that inaccurately describes the world where we should be striving for an active hands-on participation through knowing and performance. This means that they increase the dominant way of knowing, i.e. when they say that we are not a discussion of politics, even though we are actually a discussion of politics in the bars that you don't answer. Concrete 2. Dominant way of knowing in the academy is empirical observation, critical analysis, and distance perspective. This is a view from above. The object of inquiry knowledge is anchored in a paradigm of secured and print. The propositional knowledge is shadowed by another way of knowing that is grounded in active, intimate, hands-on participation, personal connection. Dominant epistemology that link knowing we're seeing is disqualified and repressed other ways of knowing that are rooted in embodied experience, orality, and local contingencies. Subjugated knowledges have been erased because they are illegible. They exist by and large as active bodies meaning outside of books, alluding to forces of description that would make them legible and thereby legitimate. Now you can cut the card there. Now, hip-hop creates a shared language in the hood that emphasizes marginalized cultures outside of the Western dominant language. It deconstructs the ways in which dominant language determines intelligence and relevance of ideas. This is nothing that benefits you doing the negative. You should prefer the pedagogy that we're producing these spaces. McFarland 13. How do you know if you're a student of challenge and marginalization of their culture and language in many ways? One is to highly value knowledge of Chicano Mexican culture. Consulfos coined the term barriology as a playful but serious promotion of cultural knowledge practices, particularly in the barrio, the linguistic hybridization of culture, cultural Spanish root term barrio with the Latin suffix combining the juxtaposing Chicano popular associations of social space with elite connotations of academic disciplines, whereas itself a representative barriological practice. Cesario translates important street hop barriological concepts from English to the black street speech and hip hop slang to Spanish callo, and street hop barriology valorizes knowledge and language of marginalized Chicanos. Now you can cut the card there. Now, hip hop is unintelligible to white people. Resistance hip hop evolves to combat whiteness and commodification. The very language of lyrics adapts to the spaces that is placed in the individuals that wish to protect it. I.e., when they try to say we are not a discussion of politics when we're talking about Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and all of the places that the military has been redeployed to. This is falling to 13. Rap lyrics are often unintelligible to whites who hip hop, black and Latino youth can speak to one another under the radar of dominant white culture. Black and Latino creativity with speech and pleasures that come with the insubordinate to unjust racial authority. Even in minor speech acts reveals a critique of dominant U.S. racial order. Rap lyrics and working class black English and Spanglish show how black and Latino speech in United States evolves in response to threat from the white ruling class. But black speech practices such as signifying double entendre and vocal inflection polynatically have been used as a code throughout the centuries to develop a critical oppositional consciousness as a tactic in the struggle for liberation. Cut the card there. Now, passivity, this idea form of engagement is abstracted and universal in ways, in the way it talks about identity categories as opposed to the very material conditions affecting people of color. Hip hop is key to the empowerment in the classroom, specifically for black and brown youth who have been marginalized by the system. This was the concrete evidence and the McFarland evidence that I read above. This is the independent reason why you prefer our strategy as net beneficial and why you can't prefer the permutation.
At the ball tournament too.
At the ball tournament. Yeah.
Bruno?
No, I'm ready.
Oh, all right. So if you like.
Can I see those cards you showed?
All right.
I have a rough sense of where you marked them. Just
Okay.
does it need to be plugged in or?
No. I didn't read the second.
Because it feels like I have.
That child.
I put them down every time I go into that room.
And then walk back out.
Yeah.
All right, well, don't worry about it. We'll just deal with it when we finish.
Okay. Yeah. Can I keep this one through?
Okay.
Yeah, you can have it. I need
It's like a overview.
They have it, right?
What?
This prep, you guys have it?
Yeah, I took it. Yeah, 854 left.
An overview and then the one.
Absolutely. That'll be okay. The last two speeches all come together.
Oh, yeah.
I hope.
That one. Yeah. Okay. Except they're also missing cough drops.
Yeah.
Overview group of the case on Way 16 that the affirmative plan solves the United States current direct destruction of China because currently policymakers in the military are divorced from academics in the communities like this one and do not allow those policymakers to cause cycles of miscalculation, balance, and rational perception that causes a variety of impacts, outweighs the criticism. Ace point is epistemology. They conceded our international relations argument that in the academic community there's an opportunity to change the terms of the way the military currently understands and evaluates well their negative advocacy makes makes it inevitable that the current practice structure will continue in epistemological framework, which means all of their truth claims are subject to questioning peace points ontology. They conceded our China-specific ontology impacts, indicating that the current United States approach to China governed by the ability of miscalculation for declared troops through the ASP strategy and things like calculating ambiguity makes it so that we are living a life that's not worth living violent. Additionally, they can see the structural violence impacts, things like environmental destruction, poverty, and extinction impacts, which are vast nuclear war impacts. Additionally, we strengthen all of their research arguments because we don't exclude their method. We just think they can't advocate the plan as long as you stick up with the one and see cross-examination that they don't advocate the plan. They don't have to relate to any of our ASP arguments. Additionally, their attempt to make us comprehensible is a link to our argument. That type of comprehensibility focus is about what is the reason why the United States policy towards China is causing violent impacts that we described above. Additionally, negative is an alternative foreign policy. They don't do the plan, which means they don't like. Additionally, on all of their hip-hop arguments, we'll get there on the lifeline, but it's happening now. Additionally, the permutation solves it. Their negative advocacy might be something like hip-hop or rap, but we are, with the permutation, something like rap genius, an explanation of the hip-hop advocacy in a way to make it accessible to people and for people in the military to change their mindsets, which means that it is irrelevant whether this is the bottle term or anything else or how unintelligible it is, because we do understand it, but we have to navigate it through the China policy lifeline. They concede the link argument that omission is not exclusion. Just because we didn't talk about the hip hop in the 1AC doesn't mean that we can't agree with it in the 1AC. The permutations completely fumbled. This is not an argument for why we are hip hop, but rather why the judge can't affirm both advocacies. You can listen with your ears to both speeches just as well. You can listen to a fast 1AC about navigating the current problems in U.S. military constructive policy and a 1AC that's beautiful and entertaining about hip hop. Then you can decide to change the AFB policy and bring that up to something that the people who are in the civilian sphere, in the academic community, who then go on and have these conversations with people in the military, including people in this room, can change. Additionally, we extend our argument about how the 1AC is and white supremacy is an add-on to 1AC. We control some survey because the current side public policies and the current approach to the United States military makes it all good. They concede our incremental state argument. The state is good. Our evidence indicates the alternative doesn't solve extinction because it's difficult. Things like environmental destruction can only be solved by the plan. Additionally, group their arguments about movements. They conceded their uniqueness, claim that racial progress is happening in status quo, which means that there is a straight conceded takeout to their argument. At the same time, we have vast uniqueness because the United States relations rapidly escalating. The plan is specific. We don't do anything like invading. They concede that we are clarifying in cross-examination. Additionally, stop telling arguments, double turning with all their framing argument. And when they kick out of it, the 2NR proves our permutation that you can't combine the two advocacies. It's ridiculous to think that we would invade China. Or additionally, all their research methods because for the affirmative, because current research methods are for securitization. Policymakers are doing this in the vacuum. Things like Donald Trump talking about American politics, exactly what our evidence says we need to confront by using a different lens through talking about Chinese desecuritization. Additionally, they conceded that demands would be ignored on state. They extend the floating pick argument if they go to advocate anything about changing U.S.-China relations through advantage pick. I'll be able to make some possible for us to debate. This is the reason why you should vote for the permutation over them. Their only other answer would be some traditionally extend the structural balance. They see that we have structural balance. How do we solve the hip hop? Now go to the bottom. Their hip hop performance fails to extend the affirmative is hip hop. The negative is violent exclusion. Our method of speaking. This is not how policymakers speak. This is not how people speak in courtrooms. The way that we are speaking is just as disruptive as the way that they are speaking, and it's the reason why. Because it's the reason why you should vote for the permutation. There's no case turn argument because they have conceded that our experiential means the current that we have an experiential connection to this. Both Klinger and I debated on the China topic and debated these types of criticisms against the types of performance advocacy. This is nothing new to any of us, and the point is that we need to navigate it in a way that forces policymakers to confront it. Additionally, they've seen the evidence indicating that their performance is not as good, which means we at least have defense, which is why you choose to not benefit the permutation more evidence posture under 6. Vertical control of politics, central problems, perennial focus, individual abstraction, structural terms, because look at central dynamic composition in the psychopath, individual resistance, individual psychology, better conceptualized resistance in abstraction, structural determinants, material just crisis tendencies, social system. This highlights because of the way that the 1NC actually deploys hip hop is not specific enough. This was devastating in the cross-examination. There are a couple bars about things like U.S. military redeployments in Afghanistan pale in comparison to our pages and pages of evidence about how the United States policy in China through ASB specifically is something that causes a or of calculated ambiguity that is meant to cause a nuclear war so that people like Trump are producing these types of policies without any type of change. Just because we're reading evidence from another team or another app is completely irrelevant. This also proves our argument that the type of policy-making strategy that our plan allows us to begin navigating to incorporate things like an actual clash-based debate with hip-hop can only be done with the methodology. It doesn't matter what we're actually seeing. Our evidence actually concedes that you can have a militaristic point of view and reject it in its entirety, which is what you're doing by voting for permutation. The point is to allow that perspective in the debate, which is exactly what the negative advocacy cannot do, because they say that we can't do hip-hop.
You said you can't do hip hop. What? Oh my goodness.
3:15.
Sure. And make sure you watch my attention to it and do that work.
Oh, yeah. Or the next, like you finish the part, but the next paragraph is like,
Yeah, but like,
I can use this once.
yeah.
Oh, right. I'm gonna do an overview, and then line by line, I'm gonna start at the bottom.
So Bershey's missing again.
Okay.
I would try to find him, but that would just likely lead to both of us being missing.
What was that?
I said I would try to find him, but then we'd probably both wind up missing for a while.
They already yelled out Erskine out there.
Just yell Burstein in the hallways.
I didn't even need to.
I still wanted you to yell.
I'll do it one more.
That's cool.
Good luck, y'all.
The role of the ballot is to vote for the team that best performatively and methodologically reduces xenophobia and anti-blackness in the debate will win. That we are the team that does it. They have conceded a bunch of arguments at the bottom of the 1 hour about the value of hip-hop and its ability to change cultural exchange. That is our ability to capture all of the one and see all of the stuff that talks about xenophobia is best solved by the negative. Our plan is hip-hop. Their plan is to remove an embodiment of xenophobia, which is a concession from cross-examination. They don't do anything. They don't advocate anything. Their policy discussion is ridiculous and irrelevant, which is why their performance and their method in this debate is bad. But irrelevant of that, substantively, they lose because their plan is just bad. Their plan does not say its, which has two problems with it. One, it means that they are not topical. They do not actually reduce American military presence in that region. And secondly, it means that the plan increases military presence within that region because they would result in more antagonism of China and more in the elimination of their capabilities of access to area denial in Northeast Asia and every other country within that region. And that's exactly how policymakers would interpret that plan, which is their own interpretation of an explanation of the current nature of our politics, which is why we need a method in this debate that can change the way in which these motherfuckers understand what the hell is going on. Hip hop is that method. Just repeating to them the same shit that they've heard before and over and over and over again is not going to do it. And that's exactly what the affirmative is. Now, performatively, they lose this debate because their performance is disembodied, objective, and appropriative. Their attempt to permute our argument in this debate was linked, it was argued as an example of performative enslavement in this debate because it assumed a disembodied ability to perform and argue, which is something that we criticized from the get-go. The second, they also lose on method because they engage in exclusionary research practices that prioritizes courtrooms and policymakers and the language associated with such, and leaves no room for any kind of ethical engagement with the other, particularly the Chinese, which is the turn to their affirmative, and they're not specific enough regarding the details of their engagement and their own double talk is a reason why you should vote against them. Now, the bottom of the debate extend the 1AR arguments, all of which were taught by the 1AR. First, that hip-hop is, you can change how it is that we engage in the political realm, and second, that we can break the norms of coloniality, which is an external impact that the affirmative can't be able to solve for, and it's an escape, and it allows for black people to be able to escape surveillance, which is the external net benefit, that their permutation is a bigger, more attempt to surveil more and allow for white people to co-opt. They conceded our Igu Exalia our example as well, and their example the affirmative is an distraction from the embodied experience of black and brown people, which is a reason which is a link turn to the affirmative reason to vote against them, and that hip hop is a shared language that allows for us to deconstruct our differences, and particularly our relationship with the colonial other and the Chinese, and that and the rest of the McFarland evidence. Extend it all. All of our hip hop good solves their app. Now, the top of the debate. He says permutation, however, the permutation is illegitimate for a couple reasons. A subpoint is an example of co-option. Our interpretation of the debate is that we have to have embodied speech acts. They get to do their disembodied performance of the 1AC, and we get our 1MC, and they're never between. You should be able to. You should choose between the two. It's particularly because our 1NC was a criticism of the 1AC, and we want no actual engagement with them. And they already admit that they can't engage in hip hop, or are unwilling to engage in hip hop, and unwilling to understand what has been said, even though they totally understand what was said, which is the reason why the permutation performatively and functionally will not be able to work. And it's also a reason why the 1AC in and of itself should not be included, because they have no defense of their performance or their method. If the alternative alone, i.e. hip hop, is good enough, you should vote for that. Any inclusion of their app and their practices of engaging in research and performing and engaging in debates is a reason why including it with our hip hop would be bad. They say they defend their permutation by saying they changed epistemology. However, their epistemology is bad because they are still epistemologically bankrupt, because they just assume that they can get rid of an embodiment of xenophobia and claim to later be able to solve for white supremacy and anti-blackness. They claim white supremacy to fucking add on to their plan. They don't even do anything about it, okay? B subpoint, they say their ontology argument is China specific, but this debate has already been China specific. Our framework argument was China specific, and we claim that hip hop is a better way to engage in China than having policymakers like Trump do it after having talked to CSIS debaters from fucking here. Like, none of that is going to be good, okay? These motherfuckers graduating to go tell Trump what he should be saying is not good. We should send Jason over to do hip hop instead. They say that we exclude their method. Yeah, we exclude their method because it's not productive and it's exclusionary and it's bad. It leads to a bad internet IR policy with the Chinese and it leads to surveillance of Black people. They say that we're trying to make them comprehensible. That's not true. We're trying to make you engage with the people that you claim to help, as well as well as the people that you're debating, and all of that is a prerequisite for having effective policy. They say that the negative, we don't do it plan. We have a plan. It's hip hop and it solves your app. They say that there's hip hop now, but we do better hip hop. Just Jason's hip hop is better than a lot of hip hop you've seen, and it specifically engages in policy questions, which is what the one in our evidence talks about is necessary, and it engages in questions of IR, talks about Pakistan, Iraq, and connects to the home and domestic and the affirmative, and it's an advocacy. They say there's no link because they're not exclusionary. However, the 1AC and the 2AC were both exclusionary. You can't critique hip hop and its effectiveness as well as permuted. That is a double turn in of itself. They say that we double turn ourselves by saying that they're not topical. However, we affirm the ability. We agree that they have to be topical and not us, and we are here to debate. And so we're not criticizing all of debate. We're criticizing their effect, their plan, and their method of engaging in debate as being exclusionary. And they say that yeah, that's good. We weren't asked.
Were you coming over to shake my hand? Oh yeah. Yeah. That is the head. Yeah.
The king of the sketch next was sketch. They made it there you go. Yeah, that is the example. The first one, the last. And then there's like.
What's that? And those and
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's chill. Been debating all day, huh? Oh, yeah, they went out off.
A couple.
Oh my god.
Who's the first and last one?
Really
Oh.
just out of control.
That's, I mean, that's what it's like, they should have warned you, just so stupid like this.
That's an awesome.
I know, right? That's because of that history. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like,
That's a
nobody's ever gonna.
That's what should have gotten.
If you hit a brick wall, you can handle
How much time do
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no prep. So. No, I think he just like makes a bunch of cards up on the stage and there. So he was even
You can't do it. I love you, but I can't go out. I
Because myself, but we're not in top line.
decision. You got it, Jim. Yeah, I just like
hey everyone, after the 2 AR, they just kind of need to get in this room and set it up. If the judges wouldn't mind adjudicating in the hall or a little bit outside, but we gotta clear the room after the 2 AR. Is that cool?
I'm gonna throw all this shit away anyways. He's the timer. So it's an overview, then the critique overview, then the critique line by line. I'm sure it's all been nice and clearly demarcated so far.
You're good.
The Affirmative Speech Act that you can vote for the status quo ignores discussion of specific policies in China policy, which has created a muddled atmosphere that allows a relatively unknown but extremely devastating policy to slip through the cracks. The plan reverses this problem by addressing a policy debate and creating deliberation over the ASB policy, which is creating Chinese aggression and causing anxiety and tension in South China Sea. So our evidence in the 1AC says will escalate to outright conflict. Is this manifestation of policy that the 1AC begins a deliberative discussion of how to erase a specific policy, demand to erase it? That is an important, concrete, institutional focus, which we have 4 different cards that say are necessary to the political relevant discourse. 3 macro arguments at the top that need to win this debate. 1, the permutation is an absolute slayer. They have never answered Bernstein's argument that it is the judge who adopts the permutation, not us, which means we're not stealing anything from you. The judge is capable of making the decision to embrace both the efficacy of hip-hop and the political demands of the 1AC together. None of this involves us trying to personally collect your advocacy, but rather recognition by the judge that there's no forced choice between these 2 advocacies. 2, the alternative does not solve anything. The cross-sex is an absolute humiliation on this point. They have no explanation of how hip-hop can ever spill over to solve any aspect of the plan or any aspect of xenophobia in society. They just say, oh, we read a bunch of cards that talk about hip-hop is transformative. Yes, they do talk about how hip-hop is able to bring political discussions to communities that otherwise might not include it, but that does not mean that the sort of hip-hop that they adopt, which is, first of all, to the exclusion of a specific policy demand and largely divorced from institutional relevance, can be effective. Moreover, 3, and this is a weird argument to make, but it's super important, we control uniqueness in this debate. There is no political discussion occurring about ASB in the status quo, and it is important to begin that discussion to avoid the fact that it slipped through the cracks because of the way discourse muscle, whereas all of their evidence indicates that hip-hop is undergoing a transformation to make it politically relevant now, which means endorsing our affirmative is more important than endorsing their hip-hop act in this debate. Oh, I'm on. He says the role of the ballot is to reduce xenophobia. Our argument is the role of the ballot is to affirm the best advocacy. We also think that we win in either framework. This role of the ballot argument is also not competitive with our framework or with our affirmative either, which means the permutation is able to capture it. If I win any of the arguments or any of the overview, this argument is relevant. He says hip-hop solves because it captures xenophobia. There's no explanation how that's in the overview. And also he conceded the last card that Bernstein read in the 1AR, which from Bosch, which indicates that a lack of connection to institutional demands renders their political discourse or performative no longer effective as far as the topicality stuff. They never answer the argument that we just clarified what our plan meant when it's cross-examination. There's no arguments in the 2-1R against clarification whatsoever, which means this is a non-starter. And also, they don't answer Bernstein's argument that this is a voting issue because you reject the actual probable portion of the plan, which is the portion of the plan they're trying to derive all of their quote-unquote case turn arguments anyway. Nothing about the plan increases military presence. We told them that's what it means, and then we get the right to define the plan. The cross-ex, they say that hip-hop changes understanding, but it's happening right now, and it doesn't occur to change understanding in a productive way when it's divorced from institutional focus or institutional demands. The mere fact that they reference political problems that occur in society does not mean that it's the same, say, concrete demand of the state for productive action about something that they are ignoring in the status quo. His example of sending Jason is actually our argument because you can endorse that as the permutation that we should have a political relevant focus, but also acknowledge that his 1NC was pretty sweet because it was. They say the performance links on the permutation, but the permutation is not enslaved. The judge adopts the permutation, or the judge adopts the permutation, and that's pointed out above, and that's explained above as how the judge is able to adopt the permutation as a way of pointing out that there's not clash between the 2 advocacies. He says something about exclusionary research methods. They use a lot of secondhand sources as well, and this is also important. Our research methods are important because it's the only way that we can redefine the debate about China, which is our 1AC evidence talks about, the 1AC underview evidence all discusses. They say that our advocacy isn't specific enough, that their advocacy isn't specific in any sense about how they will be able to affect change. They say hip-hop change the political realm. Again, that's subject to uniqueness. They make this argument again about how I'm like Iggy Azalea. Look, I was called an asshole like 7 times the last debate. This is the meanest thing somebody has said to me today. But also, they have not answered Bernstein's argument that this is more analogous to rap genius. We're able to combine both perspectives such that it is infused with political meaning when the judge adopts both. They say hip-hop destroys the colonialism, but not the way they deploy it. The line by line of the line by. Most of the permutations have been explained above. They say we co-opt embodied speech. Again, it's not the choice that we're making to adopt your speech act. We're just saying that the 2 speech acts are not incompatible with another. Just universe, both of them vote affirmative. They say that the 1NC is a critique of the 1AC and that we can't engage hip-hop. That's why the judge is the one who should be able to adopt both. And that's also why their focus on hip-hop is an exclusive route is not as politically effective as us saying that we should unite both of them in one transformative potential because it's able to build a better coalition that is more likely to attain policy relevance. They said they're epistemologically bankrupt. This argument is also actually the overview because, and his link to this argument is just we claim white supremacy. And an argument that 2AC was merely that we have identified a consequence of white supremacy that is causing real-world danger, structural harm, and our speech act is against it and able to solve it. Of course, we cannot resolve all xenophobia or racism, but neither can hip-hop. But that does not mean that you can't speak out and take a productive step in the right direction. They talk about their framework argument again. That's the overview. They say this argument about telling Trump what to do again. I explained above about how the permutation axis is actually what he's describing better than their advocacy alone, because their hip hop is divorced from a demand for political action. They say that having a plan solves it. They have a plan to solve the affirmative. They don't have any specific solvents or every reason why hip hop would be able to solve it. I can't explain them above. They say that specific policy they say that they're able to solve for policy questions, but they can't adopt this policy. They've not answered or not made any arguments about how they could agree with the plan. They're actually very clear in the 2 how about they don't, which means that all of the advantages of the Affirmative Speech Act or instrumental adoption of ASB are all disadvantages to the critique, because they can never advocate for the adoption of the plan, which we have specific evidence is necessary for a scenario for U.S.-China war. Extend a couple dropped arguments at the bottom that Burstein made, which is. The 2 performance fails evidence about how, or the 2 performance fails evidence indicates that evidence is a divorce from political context is no longer effective, and the fact that we control uniqueness also explained above, and also the way that they're deployed is not specific enough, so that and the fact that our presentation of speech is also disruptive means that they have no net offense on the question of whose speech act is more disruptive. You should err on the one who is politically relevant, which is us.
All right, great debate. Let's do that.
Do you want us to clean?
No, I think I just want to allow more than that.
Is that in context? I just want to see.
Really curious.
You want to need these cards?